Today on Project Beast Mode, we're working on roll cage. Let's do this! So I'm at the part of this project where I need to remove the cage from the Jeep. So I can do some finish welding, I can do the painting, and just finish the prep work on the cage itself. The challenge is I can't get the cage out. I need to be able to get the cage out to be able to do all those things. And the reason I can't get the cage out is because of these bars right here. I'm not able to lift it up far enough past the cage without hitting the windshield in the front and a whole bunch of other issues. So what I'm going to do is I am going to separate these rear tubes with a union. That way I'll be able to pull this lower post out, be able to slide the whole cage back, pull it out so I can do all the stuff I need to. Now the way I'm going to do that was with a couple products that I got from TMR Customs. So here are the few things that I got from TMR Customs. The first one they're going to be installing are these unions for the roll cage. Now one of the cool things I really like about these is they lock together. So they're like a puzzle. So they lock together, and when you lock them together you put bolts through them to be able to make it all one piece. This gives us the ability to separate but yet keep the strength of those tubes. So I have two of those. Those two are going to go on the rear down tubes for the cage. Now stay tuned for more from the rest of this kit. We're going to install some custom brackets. We have a steering wheel hook for hanging the steering wheel from the roll cage, and also these are all to tie in the roll cage to the frame. So that won't be in this episode, but make sure you stay tuned and check out the next episode where you can see all this being installed. So let's get these tube couplers installed first. So as I built this Jeep, as you can recall, I built everything at ride height. I built everything at ride height, then I built everything at level, which makes life so much easier when it comes to doing this project. So what I'm going to do is I want to mark the top of where I want the couplers to go. That way I can have them even on both sides. I don't have to try and measure. I can just use a level to be able to get everything exactly where I need it to be. I didn't have any issues on this side of the Jeep. I don't have any obstructions, so it doesn't really matter where I put the height at. The issue is where I come on this side. I have the rotopacks mounted here and I have a tube going across, so I had to make sure that I made this mount lower than that tube. So this is the side I referenced off of. I went over to level and marked it out. Now I need to mark these lines all the way around, and it's very difficult to do when you're talking about trying to go around a tube and trying to make everything level. So the easiest way to do that is with hose clamps. So I just went down to the hardware store and got some good old-fashioned worm hose clamps. No big deal. The reason I love this is because you can hook this around the tube, and when you tighten it down, it'll automatically square and level itself. Then you'll be able to run around that circle with your pin, and you got the exact height you need. So let's get it installed. Now that I've marked out where the coupler goes, I can remove this piece of tubing so I can insert the coupler into that spot. Simple enough. Now that I have the two tubes separated, cut that little section out of the middle, I'm ready to put the joint into place. Pretty simple process. You just slide it into the one joint, slide it into the other. The cage sags just a little bit when I took it off. And we pop them together just like that. So now this is just as strong in this position with this joint. Put the bolts in, line everything up nice and straight, weld her down. So you may ask, why? Why TMR Customs? Why their specific joints? And I use their couplers for a couple of reasons. I looked at some of the other couplers and they actually had the threads machined into the actual coupler itself. Whereas the TMR joints use a bolt and a lock nut. So I like the lock nut idea a lot better. Don't have to worry about it backing out. But also, I get to slide that all the way through to make sure that everything is lined up nice and properly before I tighten it down. I've had issues with some of the other ones that are already threaded that when I try and thread them in there, it may be a little crooked or off, and then all of a sudden I cross thread and now I have a lot more issues than I started with. So this is a nice solution. And I also like the fact that these lock together. Now, TMR also makes them where it's just a straight cut, so it's not necessarily locked together. So if it's non-structural, maybe like a door bar or something along those lines, you can definitely use that. I like the keyed-in style for this particular application. It worked out well for me just because I have vertical load on it. So with the vertical load in that notched-in puzzle, it makes it so it's a lot stronger for the vertical up and down. Plus, it's not putting all that weight on just those two bolts, so now it spreads that over more surface area, which is better overall. So now that I have both of these in, I just need to straighten them up, burn them in. When you start to weld these in, you want to make sure you have a nice chamfer on your tube to match the chamfer that's already on the coupler. You don't want to have a squared edge going against a chamfered edge. It won't give you as good of weld penetration. So you want to make sure that you chamfer that to make sure that you have a good weld and nice penetration. I said penetration. I still got a little bit of grinding to do to make these look pretty, but once they're installed and painted, you'll hardly even tell that they're there. Phenomenal product from TMR. I definitely recommend checking them out. If you have any cage issues that you need to solve, most likely they have a solution. So check them out. I'm Chad from Flash Performance. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, let me know what you want to see. Put it in the comments below.